A wealthy and powerful heir met an independent and disadvantaged maid in the most unlikely place, and what happened next changed both their lives forever. This isn't just a story about crossing social boundaries. It's about passion, second chances, and discovering love where you least expect it. Before we begin, comment below and tell us where you're watching from, because this is one romance you'll never forget. The crystal chandelier cast fractured rainbows across the marble foyer as Elena Rodriguez pulled her cleaning cart through the servants' entrance of the Blackwood estate. She'd been working here for 3 weeks, and still, the sheer magnitude of wealth made her breath catch. Every surface gleamed, every corner whispered of money so old it had forgotten its own origins. She kept her head down, dark hair pulled into a practical bun, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. The rules were clear: be invisible, be efficient, be gone before the family woke. She'd memorized them like scripture because she needed this job. Her mother's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves, and the Blackwood household paid better than anywhere else in the city. Elena was polishing the balustrade of the grand staircase when she heard footsteps behind her, heavy male, confident in a way that spoke of someone who'd never questioned their right to any space they occupied. "You're new." The voice slid down her spine like warm honey, and Elena froze. She turned slowly, prepared to apologize for some transgression she didn't yet know she'd committed, and then she saw him, tall, devastatingly so, dark hair still damp from a shower, falling carelessly across his forehead. He wore a white dress shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms that had no business being that distracting. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and they were fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness that this had to be him, Alexander Blackwood, the son, the heir to a fortune that could probably buy a small country. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize anyone was awake. I'll finish this later." "Don't." He descended 2 steps, and suddenly the space between them felt charged, electric. "I asked you a question." Elena's pulse hammered in her throat. "Yes, 3 weeks. What's your name?" She shouldn't tell him. The handbook explicitly stated that staff should maintain professional distance from family members. But those eyes were on her, and her mouth opened before her brain could stop it. "Elena." He repeated it slowly, as if testing how it felt on his tongue, and something low in her abdomen tightened inexplicably. "Elena, I'm Alexander. I know who you are, Mr. Blackwood." One corner of his mouth lifted. "Just Alexander. Mr. Blackwood is my father. And trust me, you don't want to confuse us." She should move, should excuse herself, should remember the vast unbridgeable chasm between a billionaire's son and a maid struggling to keep her head above water. But her feet wouldn't cooperate, and neither would her eyes, which seemed determined to catalog every detail of his face. "You're staring," he said, but there was no accusation in it. If anything, he sounded pleased. Heat flooded her cheeks. "I apologize. I should get back to work." "Why?" The question threw her. "Because that's what I'm paid to do. It's 6 in the morning. I think my father's balustrade can wait." He came down another step, and now she could smell him. Something expensive and masculine that made her want to lean closer, which was absolutely insane. "Have coffee with me." Elena's heart stuttered. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you're you, and I'm—" She gestured at her uniform, at the cleaning supplies, at the fundamental inequality that hung in the air between them. "A beautiful woman who looks like she could use a cup of coffee." His gaze held hers, unflinching. "I'm not asking you to run away with me, Elena. Just coffee. In the kitchen. 20 minutes. Every rational cell in her body screamed that this was a terrible idea. Rich men didn't have coffee with their maids unless they wanted something, and whatever Alexander Blackwood wanted, she couldn't afford to give. But God, the way he was looking at her, like she was something precious and rare, like she mattered. "I really shouldn't," she whispered, even as her resolve crumbled. "But you want to." It wasn't a question. Somehow, he could see right through her, past all her carefully constructed walls, straight into the part of her that was breathless and aching and inexplicably drawn to him. She did. She wanted to so badly it terrified her. "1 cup," she heard herself say. "That's all." His smile was slow and devastating. 1 cup. He turned and walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, and Elena followed, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. This was dangerous. This was reckless. This was potentially job-ending. But when he held open the kitchen door and his fingers accidentally brushed against her arm, sending sparks racing across her skin, Elena couldn't bring herself to care. The kitchen was a marvel of stainless steel and marble, larger than her entire apartment. Alexander moved through it with casual familiarity, pulling down coffee beans, starting the espresso machine with practiced ease. "You know how to use that?" Elena asked, surprised. "Shocking, right? The billionaire heir can operate basic appliances." His tone was dry. "So, I spent a semester in Italy, learned from the best." He worked in comfortable silence, and Elena found herself watching the play of muscles beneath his shirt, the strong, capable movements of his hands. When he turned and caught her staring again, his eyes darkened with something that made her breath hitch. "See something interesting?" His voice had dropped an octave, rough and intimate. "I should go," Elena said, but she didn't move. "Stay." He poured 2 cups, the rich aroma filling the air between them. Please, that word please from a man who probably never had to ask for anything twice, undid her completely. She accepted the cup he handed her, careful not to let their fingers touch again. She wasn't sure she could handle it. They stood on opposite sides of the massive island, and the distance felt both too great and not nearly enough. "Why are you here?" Alexander asked suddenly. "At 6 in the morning, cleaning a house that's too big for the people who live in it. I could ask you the same thing. I don't sleep well." He took a sip of coffee, his gaze never leaving hers. "Your turn." Elena hesitated. The truth felt too raw, too personal, but something in his expression and openness, a genuine curiosity, made her want to give it to him anyway. "My mother is sick. The bills are ... substantial. This job pays well, and the hours work with my other job. I waitress at a diner downtown. Lunch and dinner shifts." He set down his cup with careful precision. "When do you sleep?" "When I can." "Elena, don't..." She cut him off, hearing the pity creeping into his voice. "I don't need sympathy. I'm doing what needs to be done." "I wasn't offering sympathy." He moved around the island, and suddenly he was close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I was going to say that you're remarkable." Her throat went dry. "You don't know me, then let me..." His hand lifted, hovering near her face, not quite touching. "Let me know you." This was the moment she should step back, should remember who she was and who he was, and all the reasons this could never work. But his eyes held a hunger that matched the one growing inside her, and when his fingertips finally made contact, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear with aching gentleness, she couldn't suppress the shiver that ran through her. "Mr. Blackwood, Alexander, this is a bad idea, probably." His thumb traced the line of her jaw, and she felt that touch everywhere. "But I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since I saw you in the hallway last week. You saw me before today. Couldn't miss you." His voice was rough, strained. "You have this way of moving, like you're dancing even when you're working. And your eyes," Christ, Elena, "your eyes could bring a man to his knees." She should laugh, should dismiss this as a rich playboy's practiced seduction. But the words sounded torn from him, raw and honest, and she believed everyone. "I have to go," she whispered, but she didn't step back. "I know." He didn't move either. They stood there, suspended in the electric space between wanting and having, neither willing to close the distance but neither able to walk away. The moment shattered with a sound of footsteps in the hallway beyond. Elena jerked back, the spell broken, reality crashing down. She set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. "I have work to do, Elena," but she was already moving, fleeing before she could do something catastrophically stupid like kiss him. She made it to the door before his voice stopped her. "Same time tomorrow." She shouldn't turn around. We shouldn't encourage this. Shouldn't risk everything for a man she could never have. She turned around. Alexander stood in the middle of the kitchen, his hands in his pockets, his expression unguarded and hopeful and devastating. "The same time tomorrow," Elena agreed, and then she was gone, her heart racing and her skin still burning from his touch. Elena didn't sleep that day. She went through her shift at the diner in a daze, mixing up orders and dropping a plate that shattered spectacularly across the black and white tile. Her manager threatened to dock her pay, but all she could think about was the way Alexander's fingers had felt against her skin. Featherlight and incendiary. This was madness. Complete utter madness that she tried to talk herself out of going back. Spent the entire bus ride to the Blackwood estate the next morning rehearsing excuses. Reasons why she needed to maintain professional boundaries. But when she slipped through the servants' entrance at 5, her pulse was already racing with anticipation. He was waiting for her at the bottom of the grand staircase. This time he wore dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that clung to his frame in ways that should be illegal. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and when he saw her, his entire face transformed with a smile that felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "You came," he said, and the relief in his voice was palpable. "I said I would. I wasn't sure you meant it." He moved toward her, and Elena's breath caught. "I thought maybe you'd come to your senses. Maybe I haven't." Good. The word was rough, fervent. "Coffee." They fell into step together, walking down the hallway side by side. Their hands swung close enough that their knuckles brushed with each step, and each accidental contact sent electricity shooting up Elena's arm. By the time they reached the kitchen, her entire body was humming with awareness. Alexander made coffee while Elena perched on one of the bar stools, watching him move. There was something hypnotic about it, the easy confidence, the unconscious grace. He moved like someone who'd never been told he couldn't have exactly what he wanted. "Tell me about your mother," he said as he worked. Elena tensed. "Why?" "Because she's important to you." He glanced over his shoulder, his expression sincere. "That makes her important to me." The simplicity of it disarmed her completely. She has early onset Alzheimer's. Some days are better than others. Lately, there are more bad days than good. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She's still here, still fighting. That's what matters." Elena accepted the coffee cup he handed her, wrapping her fingers around its warmth. "What about your family? Your father?" Alexander's expression shuddered. "My father is ... complicated." "Complicated how?" "He's a man who built an empire through sheer force of will and expects everyone around him to live up to impossible standards. Alexander leaned against the counter opposite her, his gaze distant. Nothing I do is ever quite good enough. The company I want to start, too risky. The charities I want to fund, impractical. The life I want to live, disappointingly ordinary or no. Elena couldn't help the disbelief in her voice. You live in a mansion that could house 50 families. Money isn't everything, spoken like someone who has it. He flinched, and Elena immediately regretted the sharpness in her tone. But instead of getting defensive, Alexander nodded slowly. You're right, I'm sorry. That was privileged and ignorant. His willingness to admit fault surprised her. Most men with his wealth and power didn't apologize for anything. I shouldn't have snapped, Elena said quietly. It's just, hard sometimes. Watching my mother fade while I work 3 jobs to pay for care that's never quite enough. And then I come here, to all this. She gestured at the opulent kitchen. It's a lot. 3 jobs. Alexander's voice was sharp. You said 2. I tutor on weekends. High school students, math and English. He stared at her for a long moment, something fierce and protective flickering in his eyes. You're going to burn out, probably. Elena took a sip of coffee, letting the bitter warmth ground her. But what choice do I have? Let me help. No, Elena, no. She set down her cup with enough force that coffee sloshed over the rim. I don't need your pity or your charity, Alexander. I'm not some project for you to fix. That's not what this is. He moved around the island, closing the distance between them until he stood directly in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. This isn't about fixing you. You don't need fixing. You're the strongest person I've ever met. His proximity was overwhelming. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs, and she could feel the heat of his body, could smell that intoxicating scent that was uniquely him. Ben, what is this? She whispered. What are we doing? I don't know. His hand lifted, cupping her face with a gentleness that made her ache. But I can't stay away from you. Believe me, I've tried. This is dangerous, I know. Your father would fire me if he knew. He won't know. Alexander's thumb stroked across her cheekbone, and Elena's eyes fluttered closed. I won't let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. Watch me. The conviction in his voice made her eyes open, and what she saw in his face stole her breath. Want, need, something deeper and more terrifying that she didn't dare name. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Please don't. His other hand came up, framing her face, and Elena felt like she was drowning in the stormy depths of his eyes. Stay just a little longer. Alexander. Say my name again. His voice was rough, desperate. Please, Alexander. It came out breathy, charged with everything she was feeling. This is crazy. The best things usually are. He was going to kiss her. She could see it in the way his gaze dropped to her mouth, in the way his breath quickened, in the infinitesimal lean of his body toward hers. And God help her, she wanted him too, wanted to feel his lips against hers, wanted to know if the reality could possibly match the fantasy that had consumed her thoughts for the past 24 hours. But before he could close the distance, Elena pulled back. I can't, she said, and the words felt like they were tearing something inside her. I can't lose this job. I can't lose everything because of what you feel for me. Alexander's hands fell away, but his eyes held hers, unflinching. Because that's what this is, isn't it? You feel it too. It doesn't matter what I feel. It's the only thing that matters. Easy for you to say. Elena slid off the stool, putting necessary distance between them. You have safety nets, trust funds, options. Options. I have my mother and 2 jobs and rent that's due in a week. I can't afford to feel anything for you, but you do. She couldn't deny it. The truth was written all over her face, in the trembling of her hands, in the way her body swayed toward him even as her mind screamed at her to run. Yes, she admitted, and the word felt like surrender. Yes, I do, and it terrifies me. Alexander's expression softened. It terrifies me too. Afraid of how much I want you. Absolutely. He shoved his hands in his pockets, as if restraining himself from reaching for her again. I've never felt like this before, like I'd burn down everything I know just to keep you in my life. Elena's throat tightened. That's just attraction, proximity. It'll fade, will it? He stepped closer, and Elena stepped back. A dance that continued until her back hit the counter and there was nowhere left to go. Because I've been around beautiful women my entire life. Elena, models, actresses, socialites, and not one of them has ever made me feel 1/10 of what I feel when I look at you. Stop, her voice broke. Please stop saying things like that. Why? Because it makes it harder to deny. Because it makes it impossible. They stood there, trapped in the space between wanting and wisdom, neither willing to cross the line but neither able to walk away. The air between them felt thick, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. I need to work, Elena finally said, her voice barely audible. I need to do my job before someone sees us and I lose everything. Alexander nodded slowly, even though she could see the struggle in his eyes. Okay, but Elena, yes, this isn't over. Whatever this is between us, it's not going away just because we ignore it. She knew he was right, could feel the truth of it in her bones, in the way her body responded to his nearness, in the way her heart raced every time he looked at her. I know, she whispered. Then she fled. leaving him standing alone in the kitchen, leaving her coffee half finished, leaving a piece of herself behind that she wasn't sure she'd ever get back for the next 3 days. Elena managed to avoid him. She changed her cleaning schedule, arriving earlier and leaving through different exits. She took extra shifts at the diner, buried herself in work until exhaustion claimed her. But on the 4th day, she found a note tucked under her cleaning cart. The library. Midnight, please. Elena stared at the paper, her hands shaking. This was a line she couldn't uncross. Meeting him in secret, in the dead of night when the rest of the house slept, it was a declaration. An acknowledgement of something that couldn't exist between them. She should ignore it, should tear up the note and forget she ever saw it. Instead, at 11:55 that night, Elena found herself standing outside the library doors, her heart in her throat and every nerve ending alive with anticipation. The door opened before she could knock, and Alexander stood there, backlit by the warm glow of the fireplace beyond. He'd shed his usual polished appearance, no designer clothes, just worn jeans and a simple t-shirt that made him look younger, more vulnerable. "You came," he breathed. "I'm an idiot. You're perfect." He stepped back, letting her enter, and closed the door behind her with a soft click that felt impossibly loud in the silence. The library was magnificent, floor-to-ceiling shelves, leather chairs, a fireplace that cast dancing shadows across the walls. But Elena barely noticed any of it. All she could see was Alexander and the way he was looking at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. "Tell me to leave," she said. "Tell me this is wrong. I can't." He moved toward her slowly, giving her every opportunity to run. "Because I've tried, Elena. I've spent 4 days trying to convince myself that this is just attraction, that it'll pass, that I can let you go. And I can't. I can't let you go." Part 3. Elena's breath caught as Alexander closed the distance between them. The firelight painted his features in gold and shadow, making him look almost unreal, like something conjured from her most secret dreams. "This is a mistake," she whispered, but her feet wouldn't move. "Then let me make it." His hand reached out, fingers threading through hers, and the contact sent heat racing up her arm. "Let me make every beautiful mistake with you, Alexander. We can't what? Feel something real." His other hand came up, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, his fingertips trailing fire along her jaw. "Because that's what this is. The most real thing I've ever felt." Elena closed her eyes, trying to hold on to reason, but his touch was unraveling her. "Your father isn't here. No one is here except us." Alexander's voice dropped to a husky whisper. "Just us, Elena, just this moment." When she opened her eyes, his face was inches from hers, and the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. She could see the war raging behind those storm cloud eyes, desire battling with restraint, need fighting with honor. "I'm so tired of fighting this," she admitted, and the confession felt like stepping off a cliff. Then stop. His forehead touched hers, and Elena felt the tremor that ran through him. Stop fighting, to stop running, to be here, with me. Her hands came up, resting against his chest, feeling the rapid thunder of his heartbeat beneath her palms. He was as affected as she was. This powerful, privileged man who could have anyone was shaken because of her. "If I do this," Elena said slowly, "if I let myself feel this, I need you to understand what I'm risking. This job, my mother's care, everything I've worked for, I'm risking it all. I know." Alexander's hands framed her face with devastating gentleness. "And I swear to you, on everything I am, that I won't let you fall. Whatever happens, I've got you. You can't promise that. Watch me." Then his lips were on hers, and Elena's entire world ignited. The kiss was tender at first, soft, questioning, achingly gentle. But when Elena's fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer, something broke open between them. Alexander made a sound low in his throat, his hand sliding into her hair as he deepened the kiss. And Elena felt herself melting against him. God, he tasted like coffee and something darker, something uniquely him that she was instantly addicted to. His lips moved against hers with a hunger that matched her own, and Elena kissed him back with all the pent-up longing of the past week, all the nights she'd lain awake thinking about this exact moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander rested his forehead against hers again. "I've been dreaming about that," he confessed, his voice rough. "Just that?" Elena heard herself ask, surprised by her own boldness. His eyes darkened, and the look he gave her was pure heat. "You have no idea the dreams I've been having about you." A shiver ran through her, half anticipation, half anxiety. "Alexander, I know, too fast." He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, then her temple, then the corner of her mouth, each touch reverent and restrained. "I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I needed you to know how I feel." "How do you feel?" "Like I've been sleepwalking my entire life and you just woke me up." His hands slid down her arms, his touch leaving trails of fire in its wake. "Like I'd give up everything, the money, the name, all of it just to keep looking at you like this." Elena's throat tightened. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I've never meant anything more." She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She could see the truth of it written in every line of his face, could feel it in the way he held her like she was precious and fragile and utterly essential. "Come here," Alexander said softly, leading her to one of the leather chairs by the fire. He sat down and gently pulled her onto his lap, wrapping his arms around her waist. Just let me hold you, please. Elena should protest. That should maintain some distance, some boundary. But she was so tired of being strong, of carrying everything alone, and the solid warmth of his embrace felt like coming home. She let herself relax against him, her head finding the curve of his shoulder, and felt his arms tighten around her. Tell me about you, she said quietly. The real you, not the heir or the billionaire's son, just Alexander. She felt him smile against her hair. What do you want to know? Everything. What makes you happy? What keeps you up at night? What do you dream about? Alexander was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her back. I dream about building something that matters. My father's empire is all about acquisition and profit margins. I want to create something that actually helps people. Sustainable housing, clean energy initiatives, programs that give opportunities to people who need them. Elena pulled back enough to look at his face. That's beautiful. Why don't you? Because my father thinks it's a waste of time and resources. Because I'm supposed to take over Blackwood Industries and maintain the legacy, not dismantle it for feel-good projects. Frustration edged his voice. Because everything I want seems to be the opposite of everything I'm supposed to be. So stop being what you're supposed to be. Be who you are. It's not that simple. Why not? Because, ... He struggled for words, his hands stilling on her back. Because I've spent my entire life trying to earn his approval, trying to prove I'm worthy of the Blackwood name. And no matter what I do, it's never enough. Elena cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. You don't need to prove anything. You're already enough, Alexander, just as you are. Something cracked in his expression of vulnerability so raw it made her chest ache. No one's ever said that to me before. Then they're all fools. He kissed her again, and this time it was different. Slower, deeper, a kiss that spoke of gratitude and wonder and a tenderness that made Elena's eyes sting with unshed tears when they broke apart. Alexander's thumb brushed across her cheekbone, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Your turn, he said softly. What do you dream about? Elena laughed, but it came out watery. Right now, honestly, I dream about not being so tired all the time. About having one day where I don't have to choose between paying rent and buying my mother's medication. About feeling like I'm more than just someone treading water, desperately trying not to drown. Elena, but that's not really a dream, is it? It's just ... survival. She looked into the fire, watching the flames dance. If I could dream bigger, I'd go back to school. I started a nursing degree before my mother got sick, but I couldn't afford to continue. I'd love to finish that, to help people the way I wish someone could help her. You will, Alexander said with absolute conviction. I'll help you. We'll figure it out together. You barely know me. I know enough. His hand covered hers, their fingers intertwining. I know you're brilliant and brave and stronger than anyone I've ever met. I know that when you smile, really smile, it feels like the sun coming out. I know that I want to be the reason for that smile as often as possible. This is crazy, Elena said, but she was smiling despite herself. We're from completely different worlds, so what? Romeo and Juliet were from different families. That didn't end well. We'll write a better ending. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Stay with me tonight. Not like that, he added quickly when she tensed. Just ... stay. Talk to me. Let me hold you. Let me memorize everything about you. Elena knew she should refuse, should go home, get some sleep, maintain whatever professional boundaries still existed between them. But the thought of leaving this warmth, this safety, this feeling of being cherished was unbearable. Okay, she whispered. But just tonight, he agreed, though they both knew it was a lie. They stayed like that for hours, curled together in the chair by the fire, talking in hushed voices about everything and nothing. Alexander told her about summers in the Hamptons that felt more like obligations than vacations, about a mother who died when he was 12, leaving him alone with a father who showed love through expectations rather than affection. Elena shared memories of her mother before the disease, teaching her to cook, braiding her hair, singing old songs in Spanish that made their tiny apartment feel like home. She talked about her father who'd left when she was 7, about growing up knowing that she could only rely on herself. I'm sorry, Alexander said when she fell quiet, that you had to learn that so young. It made me strong. You shouldn't have had to be. His arms tightened around her. You should have been allowed to just be a kid. We don't always get what we should have. No, he agreed quietly. But maybe we can get what we need now. And what do you need? You. The word was simple, absolute. Just you. Elena turned in his arms, straddling his lap so she could face him fully. His hand settled on her waist, steadying her, and she could feel every plane and angle of his body beneath hers. This is dangerous, she said, even as her fingers traced the line of his jaw. I know. His eyes were dark, pupils blown wide with desire. Tell me to stop. Tell me I'm moving too fast. You should stop, should I? His hands slid up her sides, his touch burning through the thin fabric of her shirt. Should I pretend I don't want you so badly I can barely breathe? Should I act like every moment away from you isn't torture? Yes, she whispered, but her hips rolled against him involuntarily, drawing a ragged groan from his throat. Lia, his hands fisted in her shirt, pulling her closer. You want this as much as I do. Wanting and having are different things. Then let me have you. Let me worship every inch of you. Let me show you how beautiful you are, how perfect, how absolutely devastating. Elena's breath came in short gasps. The firelight cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw, the sensual curve of his mouth. She wanted to taste him again, to feel his lips on her skin, to surrender to the heat building between them. Not tonight, she forced herself to say, though it took every ounce of willpower she possessed. Tonight, just this, just holding each other. She saw the flash of disappointment in his eyes, quickly followed by understanding and respect. Okay, Alexander said, his voice rough but sincere. Whatever you need, however long you need. I'm not going anywhere. Elena kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't say into that kiss, her fear, her longing, her fragile, terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. When dawn began to paint the windows gray, Elena reluctantly extracted herself from his embrace. I have to go, she said, though every part of her wanted to stay. I know. Alexander stood with her, keeping a hand in his. Tomorrow night, that's a bad idea. The best ones usually are. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. Please, Elena, one more night. She should say no, should end this before it consumed them both. One more night, she agreed, and walked away before she could change her mind, her heart already counting down the hours until she could see him again. Part 4. Elena made it through the next day on pure adrenaline and coffee. Her hands trembled as she served tables at the diner, nearly spilling hot coffee on a regular customer. Her manager pulled her aside during the lunch rush, concern creasing his weathered face. You okay, Elena? You seem distracted. I'm fine, she lied. Just tired. But she wasn't fine. Every nerve in her body was attuned to the memory of Alexander's touch, the taste of his lips, the way he'd held her like she was something infinitely precious. She'd crossed a line last night, and there was no going back. Her phone buzzed in her pocket during her break. An unknown number. Thinking about you. Can't concentrate on anything else. Tonight can't come fast enough. Elena's heart stuttered. He'd somehow gotten her number, and instead of being alarmed, she felt a thrill race through her veins. She shouldn't respond, should maintain some semblance of distance. Her fingers moved before her brain. Could stop them. This is dangerous. His reply came immediately. So is breathing when you're not. Around library midnight. I'll be waiting. She stared at the screen, at those simple words that felt like a promise and a dare all at once. This was spiraling out of control. She was spiraling out of control, but God, she didn't want to stop. The rest of the day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Elena went through the motions, wiping tables, taking orders, forcing smiles for customers who barely saw her. She visited her mother at the care facility during her break between shifts, sitting by her bedside while the older woman slept fitfully, lost in the fog of her deteriorating mind. I met someone, Mama, Elena whispered, holding her mother's frail hand. Someone impossible, someone who makes me feel things I shouldn't feel. Her mother's eyes fluttered open, momentarily clear. Does he make you happy, Mia? Terrified. He makes me terrified. A faint smile touched her mother's lips. That's how you know it's real. The ones who scare us are the ones who matter. Then the clarity faded, replaced by confusion, and Elena swallowed the lump in her throat as her mother asked who she was, why she was there. By the time Elena arrived at the Blackwood estate that night, she was emotionally raw and physically exhausted. But the moment she saw the library door slightly ajar, warm light spilling into the hallway, energy surged through her. Alexander was standing by the window when she entered, still dressed in a charcoal suit from whatever business obligations had filled his day. But he'd loosened his tie, unbuttoned his collar, and the disheveled elegance of it made her mouth go dry. You came, he said, turning to face her. The relief in his voice was palpable. I can't seem to stay away. Good, because I'm done pretending I want you to. He crossed the room in long strides, and then his hands were cupping her face, his lips claiming hers in a kiss that spoke of hours of pent-up longing. Elena melted into him, her exhaustion evaporating under the heat of his touch. His tongue traced the seam of her lips, and she opened for him, tasting the whiskey he must have been drinking while he waited. The kiss deepened, turned urgent, and Elena found herself pressed against the door, Alexander's body, a wall of heat against hers. I thought about you all day, he murmured against her mouth, his lips trailing to her jaw, her neck. Thought about this, about how you taste, how you feel, how you sound when I kiss you right here. He found the sensitive spot where her neck met her shoulder, and Elena gasped, her fingers clutching at his shoulders for support. Alexander, tell me to stop. His hands gripped her waist, thumbs stroking the sliver of skin where her shirt had ridden up. Tell me this is too much. It is, she breathed. It's too much. It's not enough. It's everything. He groaned, capturing her mouth again, and Elena lost herself in the sensation. His hands were everywhere, tangling in her hair, skimming her sides, pulling her impossibly closer. She could feel every hard plane of his body, could feel exactly what she was doing to him. and the evidence of his desire made her bold. Her fingers found the buttons of his shirt, working them open with trembling hands. Alexander pulled back just enough to watch her, his breathing ragged, his eyes dark with want. "Elena," he said hoarsely, "we should slow down." "Why?" She pushed his shirt off his shoulders, revealing the sculpted chest beneath them. Couldn't stop herself from touching him. His skin was hot beneath her palms, smooth over hard muscle. "Why should we slow down when all I can think about is how you feel?" Because his words cut off in a groan when her lips found his collarbone. "Because I don't want to rush this. Don't want to rush you. What if I want to be rushed?" Elena looked up at him through her lashes, emboldened by the raw need in his expression. "What if I want you to show me all those things you've been dreaming about?" Alexander's control visibly frayed. He lifted her effortlessly, and Elena wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to the leather couch by the fireplace. He set her down with aching gentleness, then knelt before her, his hands on her knees. "Tell me what you want," he said, his voice rough velvet in the firelit darkness. "Tell me your boundaries. Tell me everything, because once I start, I'm not sure I'll be able to stop." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it, the moment where she could still pull back, still salvage some sense of self-preservation. But looking at him, this powerful, beautiful man kneeling before her like she was a queen, she didn't want to pull back. "I want you," she whispered, "all of you, everything you're willing to give me." His eyes blazed. "That's a dangerous request, I know, because I want to give you everything." His hands slid up her thighs, painfully slow. "I want to memorize every inch of you. Want to learn exactly what makes you gasp, what makes you moan, what makes you forget your own name." Elena's breath hitched as his fingers found the hem of her shirt. "Then show me." Alexander pulled her shirt over her head with deliberate slowness, his gaze scorching across the newly exposed skin. Elena fought the urge to cover herself, to hide the imperfections she saw in the mirror every day, but the way he was looking at her like she was a masterpiece, like she was divine, made her feel beautiful. "Perfect," he breathed, his hand skimming her sides. "You're absolutely perfect." Then his mouth was on her skin, her shoulder, her collarbone, the swell of her breast above her simple cotton brand. Elena arched into him, her fingers threading through his hair. Each kiss was worship, each touch reverent, and she felt herself coming apart under the intensity of his attention. "Alexander," she gasped when his teeth grazed sensitive skin. "Please, please, what?" He looked up at her, his expression dark with desire but also something softer. "Tell me what you need." I need you." He rose, covering her body with his, supporting his weight on his forearms as he kissed her deeply. Elena could feel him against her, hard and wanting, and she rolled her hips experimentally, drawing a strangled groan from his throat. "You're killing me," he rasped against her mouth. "Good." His laugh was strained. "You have no idea what you do to me. No idea how badly I want to." The sound of footsteps in the hallway made them both freeze. Elena's eyes went wide with panic. "Someone's coming." Alexander was on his feet instantly, helping her up, grabbing her discarded shirt. "The window," he whispered urgently. "There's a servant's staircase right outside." Elena's hands shook as she pulled her shirt back on. This was it. This was how it ended, caught in a compromising position with the heir to the Blackwood fortune, losing everything in one catastrophic moment. The footsteps grew louder. Alexander gripped her shoulders. "Look at me." When she met his eyes, she saw determination, not panic. "I won't let anything happen to you. Do you trust me?" She shouldn't. They barely knew each other. But looking into his eyes, she found herself nodding. Yes. He pulled her into a fierce kiss, then released her. "Go now. I'll handle this." Elena slipped out the window just as the library door opened. Her heart pounded as she pressed herself against the wall outside, listening. "Alexander, what are you doing here so late?" It was a woman's voice, older, authoritative. "Couldn't sleep, Margot. Thought I'd read for a while." "You're flushed. Are you feeling ill?" "Just warm from the fire." His voice was smooth, practiced. "Is there something you needed?" "Your father asked me to remind you about the board meeting tomorrow morning. 9 sharp. I'll be there." "And Alexander," a pause, "you should button your shirt properly. It's not like you to be so disheveled." Elena's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. "Late night," Alexander replied easily. "You know how it is." Well, good night then." "Good night, Margot." Elena waited until the footsteps faded before daring to breathe again. A moment later, Alexander's head appeared at the window. "Coast is clear." She climbed back inside on shaking legs. "That was too close." "I know." He pulled her into his arms, and she could feel his heart racing as fast as hers. "I'm sorry. I should have been more careful. We should stop this." Even as she said it, her arms were wrapping around him, holding tight. "Before someone gets hurt. I'm already hurt." He pulled back to look at her face. "Being away from you hurts. Pretending I don't feel this hurts. At least this way, the pain comes with pleasure." "Alexander, I know this is complicated. I know the risks. But, Elena, I'm falling for you, hard and fast and completely, and I can't stop it. I don't want to stop it." Her breath caught. "You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you work yourself to exhaustion for the people you love. I know you're brave and brilliant and so beautiful it makes my chest ache. I know that when I'm with you, everything makes sense in a way it never has before." Tears pricked Elena's eyes. This can't work. You know it can't. Why not? Because I'm a maid and you're your father would never accept me. Society would never accept us. I'd always be the help who seduced the heir. Let them think what they want. Alexander's hands framed her face. I don't care about any of that. I care about you. Your father will fire me. Then I'll take care of you. I don't want to be taken care of. I want to stand on my own 2 feet. Then I'll stand beside you while you do. His thumbs brushed away, the tears sliding down her cheeks. I'll support whatever you want to do, whatever dreams you want to chase. But please, don't push me away because you're afraid. Don't rob us of this because of what might happen. Elena closed her eyes, overwhelmed. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was impossible, unsustainable, destined to end in heartbreak. But her heart, her traitorous, foolish heart, wanted to believe him. I'm so scared, she whispered. Me too. He pressed his forehead to hers. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. Part 5. They fell into a rhythm over the next 2 weeks, stolen moments in the library at midnight, hushed conversations in empty corridors when the rest of the household slept, text messages throughout the day that made Elena's heart race every time her phone buzzed. It was reckless and intoxicating and completely unsustainable. But Elena couldn't bring herself to stop. Alexander was insatiable in his attention. He learned everything about her: how she took her coffee, the way she bit her lower lip when she was concentrating, the stories that made her laugh and the memories that made her eyes go soft with sadness. He asked questions like her answers were the most important things he'd ever heard, and he listened with an intensity that made her feel seen in a way she never had before, and the physical connection between them grew more combustible. With each passing night they hadn't crossed the final line, some combination of caution and Elena's lingering fear kept them from that precipice. But everything else was fair game. Elena had discovered that Alexander's control was a fascinating thing to unravel, that she could make this powerful man tremble with just a touch, could reduce him to desperate pleas with her lips on his skin, and he was equally dedicated to learning every secret her body held. You're thinking too loud, Alexander murmured one night, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder as they lay tangled together on the library couch. She was in her bra and jeans, he was shirtless, and the firelight painted them both in amber and shadow. Sorry, don't be sorry, just talk to me. He pressed a kiss to her temple. What's going on in that beautiful head? Elena hesitated, then decided honesty was easier than evasion. I'm wondering when this is going to fall apart. She felt him tense beneath her. Why do you assume it will? Because things like this always do. Because I'm still a maid and you're still a billionaire's son, and eventually reality is going to come crashing down. What if it doesn't? It will. Prined a finger along his collarbone, memorizing the feel of him. Your father will find out, or someone will see us, or you'll wake up one day and realize this was just a phase. Rich men don't end up with women like me. That's not how the world works. Alexander shifted, rolling them so he was above her, his weight supported on his forearms. His eyes burned with an intensity that stole her breath. Stop it, he said firmly. Stop waiting for me to leave. Stop expecting me to disappoint you. I'm not going anywhere, Elena. Not now, not ever. You can't promise that. Watch me. He kissed her, slow and deep and thorough, until she was breathless and aching. I love you. Elena froze. The words hung in the air between them, impossible and terrifying and so achingly beautiful she could barely process them. No, she whispered. No, you don't. Yes, I do. His hand cupped her face with devastating gentleness. I love you. I'm in love with you. Completely, irrevocably, catastrophically in love with you. Alexander, we've only known each other 2 weeks and I've felt more alive in those 2 weeks than in my entire life before you. His thumb stroked her cheekbone. I love the way you fight for the people you care about. I love your strength, your intelligence, the way you refuse to let anyone diminish you. I love how you look at me like I'm just Alexander, not the Blackwood heir or a bank account. I love you, Elena, all of you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. This is crazy. I know it's too fast. I know I should tell you this is a terrible idea and we should stop before someone gets hurt. But you're not going to. His expression was hopeful, vulnerable, achingly open. Because you feel it too. I know you do. She did. God help her. She did. The words were right there, pressing against her lips, desperate to be spoken. But saying them out loud made it real, made it matter, made it something that could shatter her completely when it ended. I'm terrified, she admitted instead. Of what? Of how much I feel for you. Of how much power you have to destroy me. Her hands came up to frame his face. Of loving you and losing you and never recovering from it. You won't lose me. You don't know that, Elena. He kissed her forehead, her closed eyelids, the tip of her nose. I know you've been hurt before. I know people have let you down. But I'm not them. I'm not going to wake up one day and decide you're not worth fighting for. You're worth everything. Say it again, she whispered. I love you. Again. I love you. He punctuated each word with a kiss. I love you. I love you. I love you. Elena broke, the walls she'd so carefully constructed crumbling to dust. I love you too, she breathed, and saying it felt like jumping off a cliff and learning to fly simultaneously. God, Alexander, I love you so much it scares me." His smile was radiant, transformative. Then he was kissing her with a passion that bordered on reverent, and Elena kissed him back with everything she had, pouring 2 weeks of longing and fear and desperate hope into the contact. "I want you," Alexander said roughly, his hips pressing against hers. "Want all of you. Want to show you exactly how much I love you." Elena's breath caught. This was it, the line they'd been dancing around, the final intimacy she'd been both craving and dreading. "Here, now, wherever you want, whenever you're ready." His hand slid up her thigh, his touch burning through the denim. "But I'm done holding back, Elena. I want to make you mine in every possible way." She should say no, should insist on waiting, on some illusion of propriety. But his body was pressed against hers, his eyes were dark with desire, and she wanted him with an urgency that felt like drowning. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I want." The door burst open. Elena's blood turned to ice. Alexander's father stood in the doorway, his expression thunderous, his face red with fury. Behind him stood Margot, the housekeeper, looking simultaneously apologetic and vindicated. "Get off her." Michael Blackwood's voice was deadly quiet, which was somehow more terrifying than if he'd shouted. Alexander moved immediately, shielding Elena's half-dressed state with his body as she scrambled for her shirt. "Father, this isn't what it looks like." Michael's laugh was bitter. "My son, heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire, rolling around with the help like some common letharg. Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like." Elena's hands shook so badly she could barely button her shirt. This was it. Everything she'd feared, manifesting in the worst possible way. "Don't talk about her like that," Alexander said, his voice hard as steel. "I'll talk about her however I damn well please. She's an employee who's been seducing my son. I seduced her." Alexander's voice cracked like a whip. "This was all me." Elena never enough. Michael's hand slashed through the air. "Miss Rodriguez, you're fired. Effective immediately. You have 1 hour to collect your belongings and leave the premises, or I'll have security escort you out." "No," Alexander stepped forward. "You can't." "I can and I will. This is still my house, and she violated every code of conduct we have." Michael's gaze finally landed on Elena, cold and assessing. "How much?" Elena's voice felt trapped in her throat. "What? How much money will it take for you to disappear? To forget this ever happened and never contact my son again?" The words hit her like a physical blow. Of course. This was how he saw her, as someone who could be bought off, paid to vanish like she meant nothing. "I don't want your money," Elena forced out, her voice shaking with humiliation and rage. "Everyone has a price, not her." Alexander's voice was vibrating with fury. "Father, if you speak to her like that again, you'll what? Throw away your inheritance for some girl you've known 2 weeks. Michael's expression was scathing. "You're thinking with your hormones, not your brain. She's pretty, I'll grant you that. But she's not worth destroying everything our family has built. She's worth more than all of it combined." "Then you're a bigger fool than I thought." Michael turned back to Elena. 1 hour. "Miss Rodriguez, don't make me ask twice." He swept out of the room, Margot trailing behind him, leaving Alexander and Elena standing in the wreckage of their secret world. Elena couldn't look at Alexander, couldn't bear to see the pity or the regret or whatever expression was on his face. She felt exposed, humiliated. Every one of her fears about their impossible relationship confirmed in the most brutal way possible. Alexander reached for her, but she stepped back. "Don't, please let me fix this, fix it." Her voice broke. "Your father just offered me money to disappear from your life. How exactly do you fix that?" "I'll talk to him. Make him understand what? That the maid fell in love with the heir." "That sounds like a fairy tale, Alexander. And this is real life. In real life, the maid gets fired and the heir goes back to his privileged existence. That's not what's happening here, isn't it?" Elena finally met his eyes, and the anguish she saw there almost broke her. "Your father was right. We've known each other 2 weeks. 2 weeks of stolen moments and secret meetings. What did we think was going to happen? That we'd ride off into the sunset together?" "Yes." Alexander's hands fisted at his sides. "That's exactly what I thought. That's what I still think. Elena, I meant what I said. I love you. That doesn't change because my father is an arrogant ass. But everything else changes. I've lost my job, which means I can't pay for my mother's care. I'll lose my apartment within a month. I'll lose everything, Alexander. And for what? For 2 weeks of pretending we could be something we can't. We can be anything we want to be." "No, we can't." The words tore out of her. "You can be anything you want because you have money and power and a safety net the size of a continent. I have nothing. Without this job I have nothing. You have me. That's not enough." She hated herself for saying it, hated the way his face crumpled. "I can't eat your love, Alexander. I can't pay rent with how much we care about each other. I need practical things. And you live in a world where money solves everything. Then let me help you. Let me become what your father thinks I am. Some gold digger who trapped the rich son." Elena shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I won't do that. I won't be that person. You're not. Your father thinks I am. And eventually you'll wonder too. You'll look at me and wonder if I ever really loved you or if I just loved what you could give me. I would never think that you say that now." She grabbed her jacket, her hands still shaking. But in a month, in a year, when the passion fades and reality sets in, you'll wonder. And I can't live with that doubt, Elena, please. He caught her hand, his grip desperate. Don't do this. Don't walk away from us. She looked at their joined hands, at the physical manifestation of everything they couldn't be, and felt something inside her shatter. I have to. She pulled away gently but firmly. I have to go. Elena walked out of the library, down the marble hallway, and out the servants' entrance for the last time. Each step felt like tearing away a piece of herself. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop. Behind her she could hear Alexander calling her name, his voice raw with desperation, but she kept walking. The night air was cold against her tear-stained face. She made it to the bus stop before her legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the bench, sobbing into her hands. Everything hurt. Her chest, her throat, her heart, especially her heart, which felt like it had been ripped from her body and left bleeding on that library floor. She'd known it would end badly, that had told herself 1,000 times not to fall for him. But knowing something and feeling it were two entirely different things, and the feeling of losing Alexander was agony. Her phone buzzed, incessantly call after call from Alexander that she couldn't bring herself to answer. Text messages flooded and each one more desperate than the last. Please pick up. Please, Elena, I'm not giving up on us. I'll never give up on us. I love you. That's all that matters. But love wasn't all that mattered. Reality mattered. Survival mattered. And right now, Elena had to figure out how to survive the wreckage of the past 2 weeks. The days that followed were a blur of devastation. Elena threw herself into her remaining jobs with mechanical efficiency. But the exhaustion that had always lurked at the edges now consumed her completely. Without the Blackwood income, she was drowning financially. She'd paid for her mother's care through the end of the month. But after that, there was nothing. Alexander wouldn't stop trying to reach her. Calls, texts, emails, a relentless barrage of communication that she couldn't bring herself to answer or block. Reading his messages was like pressing on a bruise, painful but somehow necessary. I talked to my father. He won't listen, but I don't care. I'll leave it all behind if that's what it takes. Please don't shut me out. Let me help you. Let me fix this. I miss you. God, Elena, I miss you so much I can't breathe. On the 5th day, flowers arrived at her apartment. Dozens of roses in deep crimson, with a card in his handwriting. I love you. That's never going to change. Elena threw them away, then immediately retrieved them from the trash, hating herself for her weakness. She kept them until they wilted, a painful reminder of everything she'd lost a week after that night. A different kind of message arrived, a letter from a law firm. Elena's hands shook as she opened it, expecting legal threats, a cease and desist, something to officially end whatever connection remained between her and the Blackwood family. Instead, she found something that made her heart stop. A check, not from the Blackwood estate, but from Alexander personally. Enough money to cover her mother's care for a year, her rent for 6 months, and still leave a substantial cushion. The note attached was simple. This isn't payment. It's not charity. It's me taking care of someone I love because I can and because you need help. Please accept it. Please let me do this one thing. Elena stared at the check until the numbers blurred. It was everything she needed, everything that would save her from the financial precipice she'd been teetering on. But accepting it felt like confirming every terrible thing Michael Blackwood thought about her. She was still staring at it when her phone rang. Not Alexander at this time, but an unknown number. She answered without thinking. Miss Rodriguez, this is Patricia Chen from St. Augustine's care facility. Elena's blood turned cold. Is my mother? She's fine, physically. But there's been an incident. She became quite agitated this afternoon, insisting she needed to get home to take care of her daughter. She tried to leave and became combative when staff prevented her. We had to sedate her. Elena closed her eyes, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. I'll be right there. Actually, Miss Rodriguez, I need to discuss your mother's account. We've been patient, but with the loss of your primary income stream, we need to know how you plan to handle future payments. I'll figure it out. I'm afraid we need more than that. Without a clear payment plan, we'll have to move your mother to a state facility at the end of the month. State facility. Elena knew what that meant for crowded, understaffed, her mother lost in a system that couldn't provide the individualized care she needed. It would destroy her. Please, Elena whispered. Give me a few more days. I'll have the money. She hung up and looked at the check in her hand. Pride, it turned out, was a luxury she couldn't afford. Elena deposited the check the next morning. Each movement mechanical, her emotions carefully locked away. She paid her mother's care facility for the next 6 months, settled her rent, and put the rest in savings for emergencies. Then she sat in her apartment and let herself fall apart. Her phone rang. Alexander again. This time she answered. Elena. His voice was hoarse, desperate. Elena, is that really you? Thank you for the money, she said flatly. It was very generous. I don't care about generous. I care about you. Are you okay? Please, tell me you're okay. I'm fine. You're lying. I can hear it in your voice. A pause, then quieter. I miss you so much. Please, can I see you? Just for a few minutes. I need to see your face. That's not a good idea. When has that ever stopped us? His attempt at levity fell flat. Elena, I know you're scared. I know my father was a complete bastard, but we can figure this out together. Please don't give up on us. There is no us. Alexander, there can't be. Why not? Because I deposited your check. Because your father thinks I'm a gold digger and now I've just proven him right. Because every time you look at me, you'll wonder if I'm with you or for your money. That's bullshit and you know it. Anger edged into his voice. You deposited that check because you needed it, because your mother needs care and you're drowning trying to provide it. That doesn't make you a gold digger. It makes you human. It doesn't matter what it makes me. Your father will never accept me. Your world will never accept me. Then fuck my world. The words were sharp, absolute. I don't need their acceptance. I need you. Elena's resolve wavered. She could hear the raw honesty in his voice, could feel herself wanting to believe that maybe, somehow, they could make this work. I can't be the reason you lose your family, she said softly. You're not. My father's impossible standards are the reason. His obsession with appearances and status. That has nothing to do with you and everything to do with him. Alexander, I meant what I said in that library. I love you. I'm in love with you. And I'll walk away from all of it. The money, the company, the Blackwood name if that's what it takes to be with you. Don't say things like that. Why not? Because it terrifies you. Because it's real. She could hear him moving, pacing probably. Elena, I've spent my entire life being who everyone else wanted me to be. The perfect son, the ideal heir, the Blackwood legacy. And I was miserable. Then I met you, and for the first time, I knew what it felt like to be myself. To be happy. I'm not losing that. I'm not losing you. You're not thinking clearly. I've never thought more clearly in my life. His voice dropped, became intimate. Remember what you said to me that night in the library. About how wanting and having are different things. You were right. I want you, Elena, but I also need you, and I'm done pretending those are the same thing. Elena pressed her hand against her mouth, muffling a sob. Let me see you, Alexander pleaded. Just once. If you look me in the eye and tell me you don't love me anymore, that you don't want this, I'll walk away. I swear, but please, give me the chance to fight for us. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse. To protect herself, protect him, end this before it caused more damage. But God, she wanted to see him. Wanted it with a ferocity that frightened her. One meeting she heard herself say, that's all where? The park near my apartment. Tomorrow at noon I'll be there. Relief flooded his voice. Thank you. Elena, thank you. She hung up before he could say more, before she could change her mind. Then she sat in her quiet apartment and tried to prepare herself for the impossibility of saying goodbye to the only man she'd ever truly loved. The next day dawned gray and cold. Elena dressed carefully, choosing jeans and a simple sweater, pulling her hair back in a practical ponytail. She didn't want to look like she was trying too hard. I didn't want him to see how much effort she'd put into appearing effortlessly put together. She arrived at the park 10 minutes early and immediately spotted him sitting on a bench near the fountain. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, his normally immaculate appearance rumpled and tired. But when he saw her, his face transformed with such joy that her heart stuttered. Elena. He stood, took a step toward her, then stopped himself. Thank you for coming. I said I would. They stood there, 3 feet apart that felt like 3 miles, neither knowing how to bridge the distance. You look beautiful, Alexander said softly. Don't, it's true. You always look beautiful. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. What do you want, Alexander? Why did you need to see me? Because I needed to know you're real, that the past 2 weeks weren't some fever dream. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling. And because I need you to know that I'm not giving up. On you, on us. There is no us, isn't there? He closed some of the distance between them. Because my heart seems to think differently. It seems to think it belongs to you now, and no amount of logic or reason can convince it otherwise. Alexander. I quit. Elena's breath caught. What I quit. Told my father I'm done with Blackwood Industries. Done playing the dutiful heir. Done living a life that makes me miserable. His eyes held hers, blazing with determination. I'm starting my own company. Sustainable housing, just like I always wanted. It won't be easy, and I'll probably fail spectacularly, but at least I'll be failing at something I believe in. You can't just throw away your inheritance. Watch me. I already have. He smiled. And despite the exhaustion in his face, it was genuine. Turns out I don't need my father's money. I have my trust fund from my mother, which he can't touch. It's enough to start something real, something meaningful. Elena stared at him, unable to process what he was saying. You're serious. Completely. Irrevocably. Catastrophically serious. He stepped closer, and this time she didn't move away. I told you I'd give up everything for you, and I meant it. The only question is, will you let me? Her throat tightened. Why would you do that? Because loving you is the first real thing I've ever felt. His hand lifted, cupping her face with aching tenderness. Because you make me want to be better, do better, build something that actually matters. Because when I'm with you, I'm not the Blackwood heir or a trust fund baby. I'm just Alexander, and that's enough. Your father will never forgive you. I don't need his forgiveness. I need yours. Mine. Elena's voice broke. For what? For not fighting harder that night. For not defending you the way you deserved. for letting you walk away thinking you were anything less than extraordinary. A tear slid down Elena's cheek, and Alexander caught it with his thumb, his touch unbearably gentle. I'm terrified, she whispered. Terrified of believing you. Terrified of what happens when this falls apart. Then be terrified with me. His forehead touched hers and Elena's eyes fluttered closed. Be terrified and brave and reckless. Be everything you are, and let me love you through it. People will talk. They'll say horrible things about me, about us. Let them. Their opinions don't pay our bills or warm our beds or matter in any way that counts. His hands framed her face, tilting it up so she had to meet his eyes. The only opinion that matters is yours. Do you love me, Elena? Because if you do, if there's even a chance for us, I'll fight for it. I'll fight for you until my last breath. Of course I love you, she said, the words breaking free. I've tried so hard not to, but I can't stop. I can't stop loving you. His smile was radiant, devastating. Then that's all that matters. Everything else, money, status, my father's approval, none of it means anything without you. This is insane, probably. He brushed his lips against hers, feather-like. But the best things usually are. Elena kissed him back, and it felt like coming home. Like every piece of herself that had been scattered over the past weeks was suddenly falling back into place. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and she melted into him, into the warmth and safety and impossible promise of his embrace. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Alexander pressed his forehead to hers again. Come with me, he said. Well, anywhere, everywhere, I don't care, as long as you're there. His thumb traced her lower lip. I have an apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Come see it. Let me show you what our life could look like. Elena hesitated. This was the moment of choice. She could walk away, protect herself from potential heartbreak, return to her safe but lonely existence, or she could take the leap, trust in the impossible, believe that love could be enough. Okay, she whispered. Show me. They took a cab to an apartment building in a revitalized neighborhood, not the opulent mansion she'd grown accustomed to, but solid and real and approachable. Alexander's hand never left hers as they rode the elevator to the 8th floor, his thumb tracing circles on her palm that sent shivers up her arm. The apartment was smaller than she expected, but beautiful in its simplicity. Exposed brick walls, large windows flooding the space with light, furniture that looked comfortable rather than expensive. It felt like him, the real him, not the heir he'd been forced to be. I signed the lease yesterday, Alexander said, watching her reaction. First place I've ever had that's truly mine. What do you think? It's perfect. It could be more perfect. He pulled her close, his hands settling on her hips. It could be ours. Move in with me, Elena. Her breath caught. That's too fast, is it? We fell in love in 2 weeks. We've already been through more than most couples face in years. Why waste time pretending we don't know what we want? Because what if we're wrong? What if this doesn't work? Then we'll figure it out together. His lips found her neck, pressing kisses along the sensitive skin. But I don't think we're wrong. I think we're the most right thing that's ever happened to either of us. Elena's resistance was crumbling under his touch, under the weight of how badly she wanted this. I need time to think. Don't think. His hand slid under her sweater, palms hot against her skin. Feel. Tell me what you feel right now. I feel... ... She gasped as his lips found that spot behind her ear. I feel like I'm on fire, like I can't breathe, like I need you so badly it's going to destroy me. Then let it destroy you. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes dark with desire. Let me destroy you and rebuild you and worship every piece of you until you understand that you're everything to me. Elena grabbed his shirt, pulling him down into a kiss that was all heat and hunger and desperate need. Alexander groaned against her mouth, backing her toward the bedroom. His hands everywhere at once, they tumbled onto the bed in a tangle of limbs and desperate touches. Alexander's weight pressed her into the mattress, solid and perfect, and Elena arched into him, craving more contact, more heat, more everything. Tell me you want this, he rasped against her lips. Tell me you want me. I want you. Her hands found the hem of his shirt, pulling it over his head. God, Alexander, I've wanted you since the moment I saw you. Then take me. He helped her out of her sweater, his eyes darkening as he took in the sight of her. Take everything you want. I'm yours, Elena. Every piece of me belongs to you. His mouth found her skin, her throat, her collarbone, the swell of her breast, and Elena gasped, her fingers threading through his hair. Every touch was electric, every kiss a promise, and she felt herself surrendering to the overwhelming sensation of being completely, utterly his. I love you, he murmured against her skin. I love you so much. Show me, Elena breathed. Show me how much. And he did, with his hands, his mouth, his entire body. Alexander showed her exactly what she meant to him. He learned every curve, every sensitive spot, every sound she made when he touched her just right. He was patient and thorough and achingly tender, making sure she felt cherished even as passion consumed them both. When they finally came together, it was explosive, a culmination of weeks of longing and restraint finally given free rein. Elena gasped his name like a prayer, her body arching into his, and Alexander buried his face in her neck, breathing her in as if she were oxygen itself. Mine, he growled against her throat. You're mine, Elena, say it. Yours, she gasped. I'm yours. They moved together like they'd been made for this, for each other. The rhythm building until Elena thought she might shatter from the intensity, and when she finally did, Alexander was right there with her, his arms holding her through the waves of pleasure, his voice rough with her name. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweat-slicked and breathless. Alexander's fingers traced idle patterns on her bare shoulder, his other arm wrapped possessively around her waist. Move in with me, he said again, quieter this time. Please, Elena, let me wake up to you every morning. Let me fall asleep holding you every night. Let me build a life with you. Elena turned in his arms, studying his face. Gone was the polished air she'd first met. This was just Alexander, vulnerable, hopeful, completely hers. What about my mother? She comes too. We'll find a care facility nearby, somewhere you can visit every day. Or better yet, we'll bring her here. The building has assisted living floors with full-time medical staff. She'll be close, and you'll have peace of mind. That's expensive. I have money, Elena. My mother's trust fund is substantial. Let me use it for something that matters. Let me take care of the people you love because I love you. I can't let you pay for everything. Then contribute what you can. Keep your jobs if they make you feel independent. Or don't has that time to finish your nursing degree like you wanted. I'll support whatever you choose. Elena's throat tightened. You'd really do that? Support me going back to school? I'd support you doing anything that makes you happy. His hand cupped her face. Your dreams matter, Elena. Your goals, your ambitions, they're just as important as mine. More important because you're more important. This is happening really fast. I know, but sometimes fast is right. Sometimes you meet someone and you just know. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. I knew the first time I saw you. Knew you were going to change my life. I was right. Elena closed her eyes, letting herself imagine it. Waking up next to him every morning, building something real together, finishing her degree, becoming the nurse she'd always dreamed of being, having her mother close, safe, cared for. It was everything she'd ever wanted and never dared to hope for. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll move in with you. She opened her eyes, meeting his shocked, delighted gaze. But I'm keeping my diner job for now, and I'm paying for groceries and utilities. Deal. His grin was brilliant. When? Give me 2 weeks to sort things out. Talk to my landlord, arrange my mother's transfer, pack my things. 2 weeks. He pulled her close, pressing kisses across her face. I can survive 2 weeks. What will you do until then? Miss you desperately. Start building my company. Look into nursing programs for you. His hand slid down her spine, pulling her flush against him. And count down every minute until you're officially mine. I'm already yours. Then let me make sure you don't forget it. He kissed her again, and they lost themselves in each other once more. The afternoon sun painting them in gold as they wrote the first chapter of their new life together. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Elena gave notice at her apartment, sorted through years of accumulated belongings, and had the difficult conversation with her mother about the move. On one of her rare lucid days, her mother took Elena's hand and smiled. He makes you happy, this Alexander. Yes, Mama. He makes me very happy. Then that's all that matters. Mia, don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve happiness. Elena arranged the transfer to the new facility, marveling at the difference money could make. Her mother would have a private suite with a view, round-the-clock medical care, and activities designed specifically for Alzheimer's patients. It was everything Elena had dreamed of providing but never thought possible. Alexander helped with everything, showing up at her apartment with boxes and enthusiasm, making the overwhelming task feel manageable. They worked side by side, talking and laughing and stealing kisses when they should have been packing, building the foundation of their life together one box at a time. What's this? Alexander asked, pulling out a worn photo album. Elena took it from him, flipping through pages of faded photographs. My childhood, before my father left, before everything got hard. He sat beside her, studying each picture with genuine interest. You were adorable. I was chubby. You were perfect. He pointed to one photo of young Elena, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. Look at that smile. That's the smile I fell in love with. You're ridiculous. I'm in love. He kissed her temple. There's a difference. On moving day, Alexander arrived with a truck and 3 friends. Elena hadn't expected people from his life who'd stuck by him, even after he'd walked away from his father's empire. They were warm and welcoming, treating Elena like she'd always been part of their circle. And she felt some of her lingering anxiety ease. Maybe this could work. Maybe love really was enough. As the last box was carried into the apartment, Alexander pulled Elena aside. There's something I need to tell you, he said, his expression serious. Elena's stomach dropped. What my father called. He wants to meet with you. The happiness of the day evaporated. Why, he wouldn't say. But Elena, he gripped her hands. You don't have to go. You don't owe him anything. What do you think I should do? I think you should do whatever feels right to you. But know that whatever you decide, I'm with you, always. Elena took a deep breath, considering Michael Blackwood had humiliated her, tried to buy her off, looked at her like she was worthless. Every instinct screamed to refuse. But she was stronger now. She had Alexander, had their love, had a future spreading out before them bright with possibility. Maybe it was time to face the past before fully embracing that future. "I'll meet with him," she said, "but only if you're there with me." "Always," Alexander promised, and sealed it with a kiss. The meeting was scheduled for the following Saturday at a neutral location, an upscale restaurant where privacy was guaranteed and confrontation would be kept civil by sheer force of public propriety. Elena dressed carefully in a simple black dress Alexander had bought her, not as armor but as confidence. She was done feeling less than, done apologizing for who she was. Alexander held her hand the entire drive, his thumb tracing soothing circles on her palm. "You don't have to prove anything to him," he reminded her. "You're already everything." "I know." When she did, finally, she believed it. Michael Blackwood was already seated when they arrived, looking every inch the powerful businessman in his tailored suit. His expression was unreadable as they approached, but Elena caught a flicker of something surprise, maybe, or grudging respect when he took in her appearance. "Miss Rodriguez." Alexander, he gestured to the seats across from him. "Please, sit." They sat, Alexander's hand never leaving hers beneath the table. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Michael began, his tone carefully neutral. "I'm sure you're wondering why I asked." "Wondering and wary," Elena said evenly. "The last time we spoke, you tried to pay me to disappear from your son's life." Michael had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Yes, about that. I owe you an apology." The words hung in the air, stunning in their unexpectedness. "I beg your pardon." Alexander's voice was sharp with disbelief. "I said I owe Miss Rodriguez an apology." Michael's gaze settled on Elena. "I made assumptions about you based on prejudice and fear. I saw you as a threat to my son's future, when I should have seen you as part of it." Elena's heart pounded. "What changed?" "I did some investigating. Spoke to your employers at the diner, your neighbors, the staff at your mother's care facility." He paused, and something like admiration flickered in his eyes. "Everyone had the same things to say, that you're hardworking, honest, devoted to your mother, that you never complained, never took the easy path, never compromised your integrity even when it would have been simpler to do so. You investigated me." Elena wasn't sure whether to be angry or impressed. "I wanted to understand who my son had fallen in love with, and what I found was someone remarkable. Someone strong and principled and exactly the kind of person I should have raised Alexander to value, instead of teaching him that money and status were all that mattered." Alexander's grip on Elena's hand tightened. "Father, let me finish, please." Michael's gaze shifted to his son. "You were right, Alexander, about everything. I've been trying to mold you into a replica of myself instead of letting you become who you were meant to be. I've prioritized profit over people, appearances over authenticity, and I nearly lost my son because of it." "You can't just apologize and expect everything to be fine," Alexander said, his voice tight with barely controlled emotion. "You humiliated Elena. You dismissed everything I felt as hormones and foolishness. I know, and I don't expect forgiveness." Michael looked between them. "But I want you to know that I see now what you saw from the beginning, that Miss Rodriguez Lane is extraordinary, and if she makes you happy, if she's who you've chosen to build your life with, then I support that choice." Elena found her voice. "With respect, Mr. Blackwood, your support comes a bit late. Alexander has already walked away from your company, your expectations, your vision for his future. He chose me over all of that." "I know he did. That's how I know it's real." For the first time, Michael's professional mask cracked, revealing something vulnerable beneath. "I lost my wife to cancer when Alexander was 12. The grief nearly destroyed me, so I buried myself in work, in building the empire, in making sure Alexander would never want for anything material. But in doing so, I forgot to give him what he needed most: love, support, the freedom to make his own choices." Alexander's jaw worked, emotions warring across his face. "I'm not asking you to come back to the company," Michael continued. "Your sustainable housing venture is a good idea, innovative, necessary, the kind of forward-thinking leadership the world needs. I'd like to invest in it, if you'll let me, as a silent partner, your vision, your leadership, but with the resources to make it succeed." "Why?" Alexander's voice was rough. "Why now? Because I'm tired of being alone, tired of pushing away everyone who matters because I'm too proud to admit I need them." Michael's gaze settled on Elena again. "And because anyone who can inspire my son to fight this hard, to risk everything to become the man I always hoped he'd be, that person deserves my respect and my support." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. This wasn't what she'd expected. She'd braced herself for another confrontation, more accusations, a final severing of ties. Not this olive branch, however tentatively offered. "I don't need your approval to love your son," she said quietly. "I'm going to love him regardless of what you think or say. But for his sake, because he deserves a relationship with his father, I'm willing to start over. Clean slate, no history, no assumptions, just people trying to understand each other." Michael's expression softened. "That's more grace than I deserve." "Probably," Elena agreed, and was surprised when Michael's mouth twitched with the hint of a smile. "But Alexander taught me that love means taking risks. This is mine." Alexander turned to her, his eyes bright with unshed tears, and so much love it took her breath away. "You don't have to do this. I know I want to." She squeezed his hand. Family is important, even when it's complicated and messy and requires work. You deserve to have your father in your life, if that's what you want. It is, Alexander admitted. God help me, it is. Father and son looked at each other across the table, years of misunderstanding and unmet expectations hanging between them. Then Michael stood and extended his hand. Partners, he asked, in business and, perhaps, in time, in family as well. Alexander rose, studying his father's face. Then, instead of shaking his hand, he pulled Michael into a hug. It was awkward at first, both men uncertain, but then they relaxed into it, and Elena had to look away from the raw emotion on both their faces. Partners, Alexander agreed when they pulled apart, but Elena and I make decisions together, about everything. Non-negotiable. I wouldn't expect anything less. Michael's gaze settled on Elena with new respect. Welcome to the family, Elena. Officially this time. The conversation that followed was still tentative, still colored by the wounds of the past weeks. But it was a beginning. Michael asked about Elena's nursing aspirations, offered contacts at prestigious programs, listened with genuine interest as she talked about her mother's condition. He asked Alexander about his business plans, offering advice without condescension, respecting the boundaries his son set. By the time they left the restaurant hours later, something had shifted. Not forgiveness, exactly, but the possibility of it. The foundation for rebuilding what had been broken. That was unexpected, Elena said as they walked to the car, Alexander's arm around her waist. Which part? My father apologizing or you being gracious enough to accept? All of it. She leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his body against hers. Are you okay? More than okay. He stopped, turning her to face him under the streetlights. You didn't have to give him a chance. After everything he said, everything he did. But you did it anyway, for me. Do you have any idea how much that means? You would have done the same. In a heartbeat. He cupped her face, his touch achingly tender. You're incredible, you know that. Absolutely, devastatingly incredible. I learned from the best. She rose on her toes, pressing a soft kiss to his lips. So what now? Now we go home. Our home, and we start building our life together. The business, your nursing degree, visits with your mother and awkward family dinners with my father. All of it. Every messy, beautiful piece of it that sounds perfect. It sounds like work. The best things usually are. They drove back to the apartment, hands linked across the console, the future spreading out before them, bright with possibility. It wouldn't be easy, nothing worthwhile ever was. There would be challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt, but they would face them together, and that made all the difference. Later that night, tangled together in bed with moonlight painting silver across the sheets, Alexander traced lazy patterns on Elena's bare shoulder. Do you remember what you said that first morning in the kitchen? He asked when I asked you to have coffee with me, that it was a bad idea. You said you couldn't afford to feel anything for me. His fingers stilled. Do you still feel that way? Elena turned to face him, studying the face she'd come to love more than she'd thought possible. The sharp jawline, the storm cloud eyes, the mouth that could be commanding or tender depending on the moment. But more than that, she saw the heart beneath, the kindness, the passion, the absolute certainty with which he loved her. No, she said softly. Now I think I can't afford not to feel everything for you. You're the best investment I've ever made. His smile was brilliant, transformative. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing about you. He kissed her then, slow and deep and thorough, and Elena lost herself in the sensation, in the taste of him, the feel of his hands on her skin, the way her body responded to his touch like it had been made for exactly this. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. I love you too. Today, tomorrow, always. His lips found her throat, her collarbone, the sensitive spot behind her ear. Every single day for the rest of our lives. I'm going to show you exactly how much. That's a long time, not long enough. He pulled back to look at her, his expression serious despite the desire darkening his eyes. Marry me. Elena's breath caught. What, marry me? Not now, not today, but someday. When you've finished your degree and my business is stable and your mother is settled. Marry me and make this official and let me spend my life making you as happy as you make me. That's not a proposal. That's a statement of future intent. Consider it a promise then. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. A promise that no matter what happens, no matter what challenges we face, I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me, Elena Rodriguez, forever. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she was smiling. That's the best promise anyone's ever made me. Is that a yes? That's a someday yes, and eventually yes. A when the time is right. Yes, I'll take it. He gathered her close, and Elena felt the steady thunder of his heartbeat beneath her palm. God, I'll take anything you're willing to give me. They made love again, slower this time, savoring each touch and kiss and whispered declaration. This wasn't the desperate passion of their first time or the frantic need of stolen moments in the library. This was something deeper, a claiming, a promise, a future being written with every caress. Afterward, Elena lay in Alexander's arms, listening to his breathing even out, as sleep claimed him. She should sleep too, but she was too overwhelmed by the enormity of what they'd built. From that first morning on the grand staircase to this moment, wrapped in his embrace with their whole lives stretching ahead of them. It felt impossible and inevitable all at once. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from the care facility. Your mother had a wonderful day today. Asked about you and that nice young man with the kind eyes. She remembered Elena for a whole afternoon. She remembered everything. Elena pressed her hand to her mouth, muffling a sob of joy. Alexander stood beside her, his arm tightening around her waist even in sleep, and she felt her heart swell with so much love she thought it might burst. This was what happiness felt like. Not the absence of challenges or the guarantee of a perfect future, but the presence of someone who chose you, again and again, no matter what obstacles arose. Someone who saw every flaw and loved you not despite them, but because they made you who you were. She'd been wrong that first day. Love wasn't something she couldn't afford. It was the one thing worth everything she had to give. Elena drifted off to sleep with a smile on her face, and Alexander's heart beat steady beneath her ear, dreaming of nursing school and business ventures and her mother's lucid days and the wedding that would happen when the time was right, dreaming of a life built on passion and partnership and the absolute certainty that sometimes, despite all logic and reason, love really was enough. And in that moment, wrapped in the arms of the man who changed her life forever, Elena knew with absolute certainty that this was only the beginning of their story. The best was yet to come. If you loved Alexander and Elena's passionate journey, rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments and subscribe for more unforgettable tales of love, desire, and second chances.